want to start your very own podcast, but you don't know where to start or how to start. Well, I've got you covered. I'm going to take you through a series of episodes where I'm going to teach you my podcasting ABCs process. And with like any other process that you learn, it's like a podcasting language here. And like any other language, you start with A. And in this episode, A is all about the audience. So you know the drill. Stick around because I'm going to help you build and create your very own podcast. And we're going to get started today with A. So stick around and so you can learn all about podcasting, the podcasting process ABCs in just a minute. Welcome to Waist Up Wardrobe. I'm Christine Vartanian, a civil engineer and attorney turned personal style expert and image consultant. As the founder of Jade for All Seasons, I am passionate about unveiling the inner confidence of my clients by developing their personal style. But is getting dressed up still important in our virtual world? Well, that's where my experience can help with what I call Waist Up Wardrobe. Waist Up Wardrobe is a podcast for all things you need to conduct an outstanding Zoom meeting. It's about how to dress for the camera, but it's not just about the clothes. It's about everything you need to know to show up on brand and professionally for the camera. Join me in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio to discuss how to navigate this virtual world and dominate from behind the desk. Hello, Virtual Nation. Thank you for joining us for episode 53 of Waist Up Wardrobe, where I'm going to spend a series of episodes on how to create your very own podcast. Throughout this year of filming and creating the Waist Up Wardrobe podcast, I get questions all the time about where to start, how to start, what to pay attention to, what to do and what not to do. Well, what processes do you use and what platforms do you use? Well, I'm going to cover it all in these next several episodes. But today we're going to start at the very beginning. And the very beginning of anything is the foundation. So let's just start with what I call the podcasting process, ABCs. And let's start with A. So A stands for all about the audience. So what that means is when you're creating your very own podcast or thinking about creating your very own podcast, you really need to hone in on who your audience is going to be, what you're going to offer your audience, what they want to hear, and how that is going to impact you as an entrepreneur for your business. The purpose of your podcast really relates to who your audience is. So let's get started with the main question I get asked all the time. And that is, what are the benefits of podcasting? Why would you do it? Why would you choose to create a show that is part of or supportive of your business? And the answer to that is there's a lot of great reasons. One of the reasons is that it really helps you as an entrepreneur in business who has a lot to offer and give people and serve people in so many ways. It gives you credibility in the industry. So if you are a marketer, or if you are somebody who specializes in Facebook ads, or if you are somebody who is a coach on how to overcome and break through all the emotional things that happen after divorce, whatever it is that you do, you are going to build your credibility more if you have a show or a podcast where you're offering people answers to challenges, to questions, to things that they've been really been troubling them or been keeping them up at night, or that questions that will make their lives easier or will save them time. So let's take an example, for instance. Let's talk about Waist Up Wardrobe. When I started Waist Up Wardrobe, it really was born out of this desire and the need of my audience as a personal style expert. I would dress my clients head to toe. But when everybody started going to the virtual offices and working from home, what they realized is that there was no need so much to dress from head to toe anymore, but they still had to dress from head to waist because they still had to show up on camera professionally and aligned with their brand. So it was really important for them to be professional, to put their best face forward now, as opposed to their best foot forward in a traditional workspace. And they needed answers. They needed to know, how do I dress for the camera? Do I need to put makeup on for the camera? Do I need to fix my hair for the camera? Does my background matter for the camera? So Waist Up Wardrobe was designed to serve its audience in a way that would help them understand how to up level their image on camera, how to dress, how to fix their hair, their makeup, or how to design their background. So it really answered a pain point for the audience that was now that wasn't before used to working in a virtual world and now was forced to work in a virtual world and needed to up level their on camera and online presence. So similarly, when you're starting to think about your niche and what you do in relation to what your audience needs, you want to think about what are the frequently asked questions that your audience always asks, and how can you serve them? So when you start doing that in a podcasting forum, that helps build your credibility as an expert in the field. It also helps create a community. Having a podcast helps you really increase your sphere of influence, because people get to know that you have this podcast that talks to important issues that they need, that questions get answered and challenges get met. And they tell a friend, and a friend tells a friend, and you get visibility, and then you start increasing that circle of influence by building a community around the topic of the podcasts. The other amazing thing about having a podcast is that you get to be on platforms like iTunes and Spotify. And the amazing thing about that is iTunes International, and people from all over the world can listen to your podcast and to your genius and your gift. So there's so many great reasons to creating a podcast and so many great benefits. And it's really important to kind of think about what those benefits are to the community you're trying to serve when you're first thinking about building a podcast of your own. So as you are building and thinking and brainstorming and creating this blueprint, right, about podcasting, think about you are going to be building rapport through the camera. As you increase the sphere of influence, it's really important to build the rapport. And that's really another benefit to having a podcast. You get this opportunity to build rapport with people you would never otherwise be able to reach. So with the Waist Up Wardrobe podcast, I reach people in Canada, and I've reached people in North Africa, like Egypt, and I've reached people all over the country, the United States, and that has really increased my sphere of influence, not only my local area, but I'm nationwide in the United States, and I am international and still growing. I've been able to get speaking engagements internationally, which has been amazing. And that has helped grow my business in certain ways. So that's one of the amazing benefits of being on a platform where you've created a show for yourself that really serves an audience. So you also want to think about your topic. So we're going to get to really expand on the audience a little bit more in just a few minutes, but let's talk about your topic. When you're thinking about what topic to talk on your show, you have to pay attention to not being too broad with your topic and not being too narrow with your topic. And I had a little bit of a challenge as I started creating the content for Waist Up Wardrobe, because many people told me, well, your topic might be too narrow because it really just focused on Waist Up Wardrobe and wardrobing clients from Waist Up. But I was able to put a little twist on that, where really Waist Up Wardrobe, the podcast, is not just about the clothes. It's about everything that goes into the Zoom box. So that incorporated not only how to dress, not only how to do hair and makeup, but also extended to how to style your background, how to speak your brand with your background, your mindset, because your mind is above the waist. We had a whole series on mindset. It extended to lighting, which was really important, and technicalities about microphones. So really was more broad than one would think, but not too broad that it didn't have a central focus. The central focus being, I show my clients how to show up on camera looking professional and successful and effective. So you see how that is really how I took a really narrow topic that seemingly was narrow and really gave it enough meat to create a series where we've recorded at least 52 shows at this point, right? So think about not being too broad. You don't want to be doing a podcast about marketing, because that's a really broad topic. There's so many people doing shows on marketing. Maybe you do a podcast on Facebook marketing, narrowing down the topic so that you can really carve yourself out a niche. And to really find that sweet spot about what you're going to be addressing in a show, you think about the intersection of your gift, your talent, with what your audience needs, and giving that to them, and think about that as your sweet spot. That is the place you want to be, is your gift combined with what your audience really needs at the moment. And if you can hone in on that, if you can do some brainstorming around that, you will come up with that topic that really gives you an edge over your competition, but also doesn't make you, and it doesn't make you, drown in the sea of so many people that are doing similar things. But it also doesn't keep you in a niche where you're not serving enough people, and that it would be hard if you have a very narrow topic. It'd be hard to grow that community because maybe not everybody really needs what you have to offer. So very interesting balance, benefit and risk analysis, or just this pro and con analysis of what is my topic going to be. So again, as I explained with Waist Up Wardrobe, it had the seemingly effect that it would be a very narrow topic, but I really proved it to be completely contrary to that, because we cover everything that goes into how to show up online with great presence. So that was the way that I really carved out a niche for myself. And thinking about what you're going to talk about is really important, because you want your show to be relevant and you want it to stand out. One of the things that really helped me stand out from the very beginning was the actual title of the show. The idea of Waist Up Wardrobe attracted people. It became something that was catchy, and people was like, "Ooh, that's interesting. Let me take a look." And creating graphics that can be similarly catchy. So for instance, with Waist Up Wardrobe, I was dressed in my suit, waist up, and I had my pajama bottoms and bunny slippers waist down. And that just made for a very lighthearted, fun, interesting graphic that really became part and parcel of the whole show, the essence of the show, and kind of attracts people to watch and to just kind of dig in a little bit about, oh, what is that? Seems curious. So that is another thing to consider as you're setting up the platform for your show. Now, you want to also, we talked about where your talent and the need of your audience intersects, but also where your passion is, right? So it really has to be this intersecting. When you talk about the topic, it has to be your passion combined with your talent, combined with what the audience needs. And then that part right there, where all these interests align and intersect, that is what you want to talk about. So I'm just going to go back a couple steps and highlight how it relates to Waist Up Wardrobe. I am passionate about dressing people to show up professionally and really looking the part. And I'm gifted in that. That is what I do. That is my sweet spot. I am good at it. I have a passion for making people feel confident in their outfits, and people need to know how to do it. They also don't have time to figure it out, and I offer them that. So the intersection of all those thoughts is where my sweet spot lied. And that's how, and in specifically with Waist Up Wardrobe, it was like how to do all this in a virtual world. So it was about, this challenge of being on camera, and we don't really know how to dress. We don't know really how to show up. I took the lead and created the podcast to show people that, yes, you do need to show up professionally, and this is how you do it. So that's how really the topic came to fruition. So the other thing that came up when I was brainstorming, if you will, is that, what is the role of the podcast in my overarching business? As most of you know, or if you don't know, my overarching business, Jade for All Seasons, is a styling company. It styles its clients with effortless style and makes dressing up super easy as they show up on stage or in their entrepreneurial life. But Waist Up Wardrobe became the subdivision of Jade where people now need to show up online a lot. And Waist Up Wardrobe will not go away because people are still working from home. There are hybrid offices, even though we are transitioning into a traditional office, we still need to know how to show up virtually because now companies are realizing that this is a good thing. It really helps their clients, to work from home. So it's not going away in whole. It will transition, but it's not going to go away. So my podcast role in my business it wasn't really the it thing. It's not that one thing that brings me a lot of clients or is that, is my main thing that really is my advertising. What it is it's my it is that thing that builds up my credibility in my niche market. It is that thing that gives me a way to introduce myself to people that wouldn't otherwise be able to reach me, like internationally or nationwide. And so it became my and it became a very important because people know me, some people know me as the Waist Up Wardrobe host. So it became this essential element that brings in attention to my overarching company and brings attention to how to show up online in a very successful way. So I would encourage you, as you're trying to create your podcast, think about it. Is the podcast going to be the it thing for you? Is it going to be everything? Because in some instances it is. This is where people start or this is what they want to do mainly. And that is their it. But maybe it's just your and. Maybe it's that piece that adds credibility in the market for you. Maybe it's that place where you are able to increase the sphere of influence that you have. Maybe it's the conduit by which you get other speaking engagements or get people to come on your show and become, partners with you. So there's so many things a podcast can do for you as an entrepreneur or a person in business or somebody that just has so much goodness to share with its audience that considering where it's going to be in your big picture vision is really important. And for me, like I said, it was my and. It was that thing that gives you credibility. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you go to any mall, if you go to a shopping center or a mall and you see those big designer companies like Gucci and Fendi and those bigger designers, you'll note, and it is true, that they do not actually make money being in a mall like that. But they have to have presence. So it's their and, they don't make money, it doesn't really pencil out from a profit standpoint to be in the mall as a storefront, but they have to have the presence because it's partly their advertising. So podcasting can very much be like that. For me, I've actually been able to monetize my podcast by creating these kits that help my clients, up level their background or know how to dress on camera or show them how to do their hair and makeup. So that has actually monetized. But again, it's still just my and. It's part of what I do. It's not everything that I do. So I hope that example helps a little bit, give you perspective. Don't feel like the podcast has to be everything. And I would encourage whoever, starts that podcast to do it consistently. Consistency is so key. I did it consistently for 43 weeks now. And I'll tell you, not only did it give me an anchor in this Waist Up Wardrobe podcasting niche, but it taught me how to be a better speaker on I went from not really liking to be on camera to not really thinking it's much of a big deal, and it's pretty easy for me to be on camera, to be interviewed on camera, or to speak on camera, and to be more natural on camera. So it really is a learning curve. So don't fret if it's not easy, or if you don't think it's going to be that you're camera shy. Just do it. That would be my advice, is just do it. If you have a gift and if you have a passion and you know your audience needs what you have to say and needs this advice, do it, because it is definitely a plus. It builds your credibility in a way that you can't otherwise do internationally and nationwide. So think about that. And I feel as though this has become my launch pad for so many other things, not only my Waist Up Wardrobe kits, but I've gotten speaking engagements just by virtue of having my show. I've also become a guest on multiple other podcasts just because of my show. People will look at my background and say, oh, I'd love to design a background like that, and then want me to design a background for them that aligns with their brand. So really, there is so many byproducts of having a show such as this one that really aligns with your gifts and your niche. So one of the things, as you sit down to really map out what you want to do for your particular show, is you have to define who your audience is going to be. You have to think about, who are you speaking to? Like any other thing, even when we're in business, people talk about your avatar or your ideal client. Who is your ideal client? And when you're trying to brainstorm on who your audience is, that's what you have to think about. Who's your ideal client? That group of people is going to be your audience that you're going to keep growing and growing over time as you podcast show after show. So your ideal client, as you think about that, remember that will translate into who the audience is that you're speaking to. So for example, as Waist Up Wardrobe, my ideal client, when I started thinking about who's going to be listening to this, my ideal client are the entrepreneurs who know that their image is important for business, for advancing in business, and for affecting their bottom line and profit. And when it came to Waist Up Wardrobe and showing up on camera, it was those people that knew that putting their best face forward is similarly really important, and showing up professionally will make a difference in how they're received by their audience, by the people that they're on virtual meetings with, and be it clients or bosses or team. So that was the audience I was targeting. So think about who your audience is. Think about what the topic is that you're going to deliver to them. And those two things are definitely the start point for creating your very own show and podcast. And you have to think, when you're thinking about the topic, think about how I usually think about, what are the most frequently asked questions? What do my clients or people that reach out to me ask me the most? And I think about that, and then I create question and answers based on those very frequently asked questions. Similarly, you can do the same to really create the topics that you're going to be talking on. And you also want to think about this ideal client of yours and how you're going to help them. You're going to talk on that frequently asked questions. You're going to give them answers to the questions, and you're going to give them direction, and possibly even connect with them as a follow-up to help them further, which then in turn translates into really acquiring potentially a client or a partner or an affiliate. Those things end up really just organically happening. So just to sum up here, the main takeaway. Remember, I'm going to be taking you through the podcast ABCs, the podcasting ABCs. And today we started with A. And what is A all about? Well, A is all about audience. A is all about your audience. Who is going to be your audience? What are their pain points? What are they frequently asking? How are you going to help that audience? What topics are you going to talk about that really supports your audience? So remember, when you're starting the podcast, think about audience. Be very audience focused. And then shortly after that, you want to think about what the title of your podcast is going to be as it relates to your audience, and think of a clever way to come up with a name that can be catchy and grab their attention. That can be kind of a very hard process because, you want to, it takes a lot of brainstorming. For me, Waist Up Wardrobe was something that I thought about first, and then I decided to make a podcast on it. And similarly, maybe there's a catchy phrase that you use in your business that maybe you can take and create the show around that. So remember, the main takeaway is it's all about the audience. The tips I would leave you with today are, take action, start brainstorming who your ideal audience is, and start brainstorming what are the topics you're going to be speaking on. Maybe just list 2 or 3 topics to begin with so that you can get sort of the creative juices flowing, and think about a catchy title. The tools you can use at this point are pretty simple. Just a pen and pencil and paper, and start brainstorming topics, ideation, because this is where everything will begin. It's about who your audience is and what you're going to talk to them about. So action item, grab a pen and pencil, start brainstorming at least 10 topics that you're going to be using in your podcast. And that's it for Waist Up Wardrobe Weekly Wrap Up now. But this is just part A. And next week, join me as I walk you through step B, where we start talking about what's the next step after you brainstormed and figure out who your audience is. What's the next step in the podcasting process? And next week, join us so that you can get this follow-up piece and invite a friend.